everybody, it's Nicole Bonner with Thrive Chiropractic Coaching, and welcome to our Wednesday workshop. Why Wednesday? Because it's the middle of the week, and if there's any time in the week that you need a boost or I need a boost, it's Wednesday. Today, we are here with Dr. Dustin Taylor. He wrote a book. He's the author of Adjusting Your Persuasion. An awesome book. I already started reading it. It's amazing. And I wanted to bring Dustin on to our Wednesday workshop because he has a wealth of knowledge to share with you in the art of communication and the art of sales, if that's, he said it first, if that's what you want to call it, right? But it's so artful that it's not like selling, right, Dustin? It's like,
That's
it's
correct.
it's you use these techniques and all of a sudden you have people that are coming to you and saying, how do I become a part of this? How do I get this? And that's the coolest part of what Dustin is teaching in his book and has taught so many chiropractors and other business owners. So I wanted him to come on today and just share his wealth of knowledge with you. So Dustin, go for it, man. What do you got for us?
Yeah, Nicole. First of all, thank you for having me. It's good to see your face again. I know it's been years since we've really got to talk a lot, and I know that as we sit here and as we go into this, you and I are going to get something out of this. But I hope it serves people well. That's the whole the whole mission of this. But getting into the selling, I've never really enjoyed that word using it. The one word that I use on the in the book as the subtitle is becoming more effective. I love that because if we can become more effective, then we can be more of who we are. And that's what I and so you and I both know we ran in some similar circles when you first start out in this world of learning how to sell your product, which is chiropractic, which is the one of the best products in the world, by the way. You run into people who are good at it, and then you almost feel like they're a magician or some sort of they have something that you don't, and then if you copy that and it's not you, it
Mm-hmm.
feels phony. And so taking the magic out, taking the phony part out, and just getting into the raw, purposeful, basically the word sell comes from an old English word which literally means to give or to serve. And so if we can just serve
Mm-hmm.
people with our product, that's what we're doing. That's it. That takes the magic out of it. And one of the first things I always do when I sit down, I still am mentoring, but I still am also in the trenches serving people. The first thing I always do is I just try to define the moment, define what are we talking about here? If we can't define what we're about to talk about, then we're not going to be on the same page from the get-go, and that's a problem. And so in the book, I start there. I start with, let's figure out, what are we even talking about right now? And that's a huge thing with people, especially starting out, is that you have to get people to understand, hey, when we got start talking about chiropractic, or when we start talking about health, or we even talking about the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the things that I did, and I struggled with this a little bit early on, but I'm so happy that I did it with the book. I used the word persuasion in the title, and I hated it. It almost was like a sore on the title, but I didn't want the word influence on there because it's such an easy, soft word that everybody likes to throw around. And persuasion is one of those words that even some of my friends, when I showed them the title, they were like, "Ooh, persuasion." I wanted people to wrestle with this
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted people to say, if I told you to tell me your definition of persuasion, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I don't make people go to a dictionary. I just say, what is persuasion to you? And then they'll tell me that it's something that you don't do to people. You're talking them into something. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what I try to get people to first realize is that persuasion is really just decide, helping people decide that they want something. And then you can take that a step further and saying, I'm trying to help somebody decide to get something that they already wanted.
Mhm.
which is what you have to offer. And so if I can have my definition of persuasion as me helping someone decide to get something that they already wanted, and it just so
Mhm.
happens to be what I want them to have too, right? That
Right.
puts us on the same page. And so I know you probably read that in the
Mhm.
book, but that was my way of just bringing this all together to where it just felt right. And if we can start there, persuasion is easy. Persuasion is not gross. It's not
Mhm.
disgusting or sickening or slimy. It's not some sort of magic trick. It's just really helping people get what they want and you want it to. So that's where I like to start. Do you have anything to add to that? I mean, I know you read, but just,
Yeah, so as you're talking and, talking about friends and when they first saw the word, I kind of felt the same way. I was like, I don't know if I like that word persuasion. And then, like, I did this whole mental gymnastics in my head. Then I'm like, wait a minute. No, I know Dustin. I've known Dustin for years. I know who Dustin is and I know his heart. So he chose this word intentionally. Now I can't wait to read why he chose it. And then, of course, when I read it, it made a world of sense. And I
yeah.
was like, that's really clever and that's really powerful.
Yeah, and it did. It was something that stuck, and I'm glad it happened. But then we have to, after we decide that we're in this together, this conversation of persuasion, which is really just helping someone get what they want, and you just want them to have that too, is really like understanding the or lying down why you want that. And I go into that, and I will tell you, Nicole, like I can't tell you how many times I've had to talk to a team member, talk to a an associate doctor or a doctor that I've mentored, and a lot of the times their biggest problem with selling or enrolling people into care or whatever you want to call it, persuasion, is really what they believe. If they struggle with a belief system, then that's where they're going to stumble. The rest of it seems to be a lot easier once you just pave the way and really get into your beliefs. So this, like some of the beliefs that I have that I put in the book are, you're always communicating no matter what.
Mhm.
Um, I tell people that all the time, like one of my biggest things is table talk. When I adjust, I'm not sure how you are, and it doesn't really matter. But as long as you have a belief, like I don't talk when I adjust because I want someone to really believe that I am there for them and into the moment. If I do talk, there's going to be a reason why I'm talking. It's not about the weather. It's not about making a joke about yesterday or whatever, because I don't want to downplay the what's actually happening in that moment. So another example of that is when someone walks in the front door and nobody says hello by name to a person. Um, you're always communicating even when you didn't say something. So these beliefs that I put in the book, those are great, but then what? If you believe that, then what? What do you do based on that belief? And that's the magic of what happens in your communication is those two words, then what? Those are the ones that matter the most, because then that's going to carry into action. So beliefs always carry into action, and that's why I put these beliefs in there. One of the ones that I've had to echo so many times throughout my career is the one at the very end where I would say there's no failure, there's only feedback. To
Mhm.
doctors who are thinking about closing their doors, or they're struggling with their numbers, and it's you're not your result. The failure is just putting a timeline on success that's just not fair. And so
Yes.
there's well, then what? So if you believe that there's no failure, there's only feedback, your job when you go to work, and my job when I go to work, is really just to seek out feedback and figure out what worked and what didn't
Mhm.
work, and then go to the next day and be stronger. So those beliefs are huge.
Yeah.
That was a big part of the book, and I put it's in chapter 3 of 19 chapters, and then throughout the book I'll always refer back to a belief, and then I'll say, if you're having a problem with this right now, go read chapter 3 again, because you're having a problem with your belief system. And I think that when people read this book, they're going to see that early on you have to lay down the foundation of what you do believe, whether it's the things I wrote. maybe a small twist on those things. But you have to believe something. And then when you do, you have to say, okay, based on that belief, then what? What am I going to do because I believe that? That's a big part of the book. So uh, you can add anything you want to that. I know you read some of that and you really like, because I sent you the first 3 chapters and I made sure that the first 3 were in there because I wanted you to see those beliefs.
Yeah, no, the first 3 chapters are amazing. I read the beliefs, and there's so much I'm thinking here. First of all, to take a step back to the failure thing, as you were speaking to, the first thing that came to my mind when people think about failing, and you call it lessons learned, one person's failure is also another person's success,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And that still goes back to beliefs and your perception of what is successful and what is a win versus a fail, or win versus a loss. So I think that that's really interesting, and I think that's really important to bring to the table, is that, just repeating what you said, that there is no failure. Really, it is what your belief or your perception is of the experience that you've had. So so that's key, guys. If you guys, you guys that are watching, I would write that down. That's really good. And then, you're talking a lot about belief systems. You're absolutely right. And just like you, I've mentored lots of chiropractors, and worked with, chiropractic business coaches, for the last, I don't know, 15, 18, 20 years now. And as I'm mentoring practices, I always, in the beginning, I understand why it is now, but in the beginning, I would always wonder why I could be coaching 10 different practices. All 10 practices and teams are saying the same exact thing, and yet they're getting different results. And it all goes back to what's driving your actions, which is the belief behind the action, the belief behind the script, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I were talking a little bit before this recording, and we were talking about how, and I want you to share that with our audience. What made you write this book? Why don't you share that? Because that's
Yeah.
important.
It's funny because I, and I'm going to put a little twist on it because one of the things I always like to say, Nicole, is you asked me that question twice today, and I don't like to answer the same way both times because I think that puts us in a world where we just echo the things that we said. So the honest answer to that is I was mentoring, I was practicing, I had associates, I had teams. Everybody needed my attention, they needed my advice, they needed my expertise. And so my my frustration was that I couldn't be everywhere. And I knew that something had to be out there that could just, you know, that I could just say, refer to this. And so I started recording audios, and the audios were great for mentoring. They were great for my team. They were great for my associate doctors. They would record me, even if we were just, at my house late one night, just eating dinner. My kids would go to bed, my wife would go to bed, it would just be us, and we'd just be talking, and one of my associates would record me. And then I got to where I opened my second practice, and that just really limited my time. And I mentioned this in the book, and my frustration with not having the time to do what to let people know who, what they need to do, how they need to do it, because they're having questions, they were seeking me out, and I just didn't have time. So that frustration is what led me to writing the book, is that they needed I could see that they needed something that was just bigger than me, really. I mean, you could call me on the phone, I might not be available, but when you can flip to a page that
Hmm.
has my thoughts, and expertise, and that doesn't come from, that comes from experience. It comes from, rubbing shoulders with people like you, who are, we always walked in circles that, where someone was in the room was smarter than you or been there before. So that's what made me write the book, is that I'd been a lot of places, I've seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things, and the people I was around had not. And so they needed a piece of me even when I wasn't there. So and a lot of people did. The more people who need you, Nicole, and I think you've probably found this out through coaching, and I follow you, by the way, and you're great. But is that the more people who need you, a piece of you, the more you need to put more material out. And
Mhm.
then the more material you give, people can search through that and they can find the wisdom, and it may be something you forgot that you even put together. But that's what made me write the book, is that people needed it, and that they weren't needing me. They're not, the people don't need you. What they need is your message. They need the sacred trust. That's what BJ put out there. He said we got to guard this well, and they're seeking people who are guarding it well, and that's what you're doing with your service. And that's why I wrote the book, for sure.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you shared that, because even earlier when we were speaking, it like rung true in my heart, because I would say that that is a common theme for most entrepreneurs and business owners, that if you're not there yet, you do eventually get to the point where you need resources to be able to mentor and train your team, your staff, your associates, and it's just your book is just such a great resource. How talk to me about like the other thing that is really amazing about your book is that I believe anybody can take that resource and read it and understand it. And so, would you say that
Mhm.
it's also, because I think that it is, but I'm answering your question for you, I'm sorry. Would you say that it's also
That's okay.
applicable for doctors and business owners to share with their CAs?
Yes. And so I had gotten into a point where, having two offices, we even dabbled into having case managers where, you had your CAs that were doing part of the day one. And, when you do that, again, you're training these people how to do this. But yeah, so the book is great for training your team, not only in belief systems and systems, and it makes them easy. I've had people read this book and literally have their CAs selling on day two or day three or whatever you want to, wherever you want to sell. So, um, people can get a little bit fancy in it. I like to do my own report of findings. That's just the way I am. But I'm not. If somebody does it well, and the delegation rule, 80/20, if somebody can do it 80% as well as you can, why not give it away to someone else? But yeah, there's definitely a component of a team driven aspect of it, to where everybody's on the same page. Again, if we can define who we are, cover to cover, the book is like, I tell my team, this is who we are. This office, if you're doing something different, I need to know about it, because I didn't write it. I didn't come up with it. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I just need to know, because I didn't put it in here. And this is just who I want us to be. When we create a culture in our office, it starts with beliefs, and then it goes into systems, and we really have to be on the same page as a team. And I know that you teach that and that you believe that. But the the overarching a theme of the book was to make it so simple that you didn't have to be a doctor to do it. You didn't have to be a doctor to understand it. I have clients that have been, in the just in just any business management world, where they can understand this, even though they're reading basically what I would call a chiropractic book. That's how easy I wanted it to be understood.
Yeah, absolutely. I got that as I was reading it as well. And you're right. This is the book was written by a chiropractor, but this is not a chiropractic book. This is an entrepreneur's book. Any business owner will glean insight from this book.
Mhm. Yeah,
Of
absolutely.
course, chiropractic
Absolutely.
is the theme, but
Mhm.
um, you in such a way that I can never do, by the way. I was just blown away. But you take the concept of higher level communication,
Mhm.
and you really do. You make it so easy in this book.
Well, thank you. I mean, that was my intention, is because, again, when you would go to that first seminar or that first practice management group, and you would go home and think, what just happened? I liked what I heard, or I liked what I saw, but I have no idea what just happened. And so what I think that people can do with this book is kind of drink from the fire hose, if you so to speak. But then again, like, after you just process it for a minute, you can go back to that chapter, and just let it just kind of settle in a little bit more. You don't have to wait. You don't have to pay more money. You don't have to, You don't have to do anything. You just have to just allow it to just become who you are. I talk about that in the book a lot too, is, when persuasion or selling or whatever you want to call it, when it becomes who you are instead of
Mhm.
something that you do, that's when you know that you're winning. That's when you know that you are getting to where you want to be, because I mentioned this in the book a lot too. I actually start the book out with my favorite BJ Palmer quote, which is, being good is not enough when you dream of being great. And
Mhm.
greatness comes through effectiveness. And effectiveness is really us honing in and pushing out the fluff of what we're saying and what we're doing, and just honing in on being who we are to other people so they can see that authenticity, and they can see the authenticity in our product and how that product or that service can actually serve them and serve their needs so well that they have to do it. They have to make that choice. And that's something that I also go into in the book a lot, is you can literally, as a chiropractor or as a business owner, you can find your strengths and your weaknesses in this book. I go into the 5 steps of persuasion. And my persuasion process is, it's so simple, but it's so easy for people to see. Like I talk about the first thing that I do when I sit down with a patient is I'll say, look, working with a chiropractor with me, like me, is just a really simple 5 step process. And if you've got a few minutes, I can go into that 5 steps. And the first step is really very simple. I've got to figure out why you're here and what you want. So I can get back into that. You can read that in the book. But the first thing I do with chiropractors when I mentor them, and I think you do this too, whether you know it or not, is you have to find out what not what you want, Nicole, what you want. And so, for example, let's go back into the setting of we're in a day one with a new patient. What do I want for the new patient? A lot of the answers that I get from chiropractors when I ask them, what do you want from this patient? They're going to say, well, I want them to buy my care. I want them to become a patient. And I'm like, okay, great. That's too
Mhm.
much. Already it's too much. That can be
Mhm.
a good like end result, but what do you want right now? And so we have to get into this frame of mind where we're in the moment with this patient, because
Mhm.
they could be very closed-minded to chiropractic. They could be unsure, they've never had any experience with chiropractic. So my first thing for chiropractors is, can we just get them interested and possibly wanting to become a patient? Let's get them interested in the idea of maybe allowing us to do an exam and
Mhm.
figuring out their problem. So what do I want? I want to walk them along the process to getting them to become a person who would become a patient.
Right.
So that is where I start. And it's so basic and so elementary that we're not aiming to sell right when we meet someone. That's
Mhm.
huge for people.
Huge.
If you can take that out of you can be so real with people when you can just take the selling off the table at the very
Yeah.
beginning and just be yourself. And then it's very really simple to do the second step, which is just to build rapport with them, get to
Mhm.
know them, build a connection, and then find out what they want, which is very simple because it always starts. And I know you probably teach this, we've all heard this. Find out what they want. They're going to tell you, well, I want to get rid of my back pain or my neck pain or my headaches or whatever, but
Mhm.
there's going to be an emotional reason why too, because they can't play with their grandkids, or it's a mom that has headaches and she can't
Mhm.
be the mom that she wants to be. There's got to be a big reason why, and that's what we've learned as we've mentored, is to teach people that having headaches, when you get rid of somebody's headache after one adjustment and they don't need chiropractic anymore, they really do, when we know that, but they don't feel like they do. So
Right.
find out what they really want. When they become the mom that they want to be, the grandmother that they want to be, that's when we know we won. The fourth step, and this is where, so like I tell people, let's go back through those first three. Know what you want. A lot of people do struggle with that, but it doesn't take them long to get over it. Building rapport. I think most chiropractors are really good people and are easy to talk to because we
Mhm.
do it every day. So building rapport is usually not something I have to really like teach people. I'm not sure if you do. I mean, there's some techniques that you can share, but the third one, find out what they want. Some people struggle with that because they will accept, I just want to get rid of my headache, or I want to get rid of my back pain. And that
Mhm.
sets the tone for the length of your relationship.
Yeah.
Um, if you're getting rid of headaches, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is, instead of creating that patient that's going to be with you for the rest of their life, because chiropractic is now necessary for them. But then that
Yep.
gets into step number 4, which I feel like this is the one that people do struggle with the most, and that's creating leverage. And I never really liked that term either, creating leverage, because it was like, it sounds so mechanical, or it sounds almost like we're in a physics class. What I like to
Mhm.
use is to make chiropractic, or make your care necessary. And I use
Mhm.
the example of cell phones. Back in the 90s, cell phones were like big, they were expensive. You had a 40-minute plan. You wanted to be on your cell phone because it was cool, but you couldn't
Mhm.
because you didn't have enough time to be on it. So you would just, it would be painful to own one.
Yeah.
Now it would be painful not to own one.
Mhm.
So how did they do that? And that's, I go through that in the book, is how do you make your product or your service so necessary that
Mhm.
people cannot live without it? And that right there is the one that I believe that most chiropractors, most business owners outside of chiropractic struggle with, is making their product necessary, making people have to have it. Because the
Mhm.
last option, the last step is very
Mhm.
simple. That's just offering what I have to offer you, which is your service, your chiropractic, your adjustment. If you sell
Right.
decompression or laser therapy, whatever it is, your
Mhm.
solution, we're good at offering our solution. What we're
Mhm.
not as good at, in my opinion, and you mentoring, you might see this too, is making things necessary, making this necessary.
Mhm.
So that's the big part of making this simple, is trying to figure out of that sales process, or that persuasion process, what are you good at? What needs work? And then
Mhm.
when you ask yourself what needs work, that's where you're going to spend your time focusing on getting better and becoming more effective.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, amazing. I hope you guys are taking notes on this, and you guys better be buying his book like right now.
It's on
Amazing.
Amazon again. So
Amazing. And you make it so easy because when I first learned these concepts, I don't know, like 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, and I just started learning this communication stuff, this higher level communication, my head was spinning,
yeah,
Dustin.
mine was too. And that's why
My
I
head
had to
was
make it
spin
stop. I had to make it
Yeah.
stop.
Well, I
One
was
of
coming to you guys like, how do what do I don't know what this means.
Yeah, what I think one of my gifts that God gave me was really to take something that was complicated and make it simple. Because if it wasn't simple, I'm not doing it. I mean, if I'm confused when I'm doing it, imagine what the other person is going to feel. They're going to feel confused as well. So making things simple is the way to go. So it's, I poured my heart into this book, as far as with time, with how I think I even texted you this the other day. Like, I know that I'm proud of it, but at the end of the day, I want our profession. I want the people who read it to receive it well, because it comes, when I would read it, I would go, that doesn't sound like me. And so I'd put it down for like 3 months, and then I'd pick it back up, and I would have to edit it to make it sound more and more like me, because I really wanted my heart to show in it, and not just a sales tactic or a persuasion tactic. I wanted this to be something that somebody could pick up, and if you can't find yourself in it, you can reread it, and then you can tweak it, because you read a belief with it or something, and you
Mhm.
can make it your own, because you're not me. I'm not you. We're
Mhm.
not the person that mentored us, and we
Mhm.
shouldn't be. You are
Mhm.
you. And then when someone comes to me, they need to get me. And they need to get you when they go to you. And so
Mhm.
I actually, toward the end of the book, go into some techniques on how to pour that into your day one process. For me,
Mhm.
I'm a people will tell me, Dustin, you're kind of serious. I'm not really sure how to read you. Um, and I will tell people, look, in my day one, I'll say, look, I'm very serious. When you get to know me, I'm really serious. I'm very analytical. And what that does for you is this. After I take your x-rays and I analyze your x-rays, I'm going to take them so serious, and I'm going to spend more time than any other doctor will, because I want to find out exactly how to make this work for you. Because that
Mhm.
can sound like me. Then you can take
Mhm.
most of the women that we've mentored, you've probably mentored them as well, and they can be so bubbly, and they can be like, look, what you're gonna learn about me is I'm so bubbly, I'm so energetic, and I just
Mhm.
really have a passion for what I do. And I don't want that to scare you or scare you off. I just want you to know that I'm so happy that you're here and that you chose me to be your chiropractor, give me the opportunity to serve you. So you can make this yours. You know, what you have to figure out is who you are and then
Mhm.
communicate that to where it is so authentic that people see it. And then when the more authentic you are and the more agreement that you have in your communication, the more effective you're going to become. So I like to teach people how to hone that in as well, because you can't, you know, one of the things that I'll say in the book, and I'm not sure if you got to that point, um, is you can have the greatest sales script of all time. And if you're not reading it and it's not becoming you, it's just not going to
Mhm.
be effective. It's just not going to
Absolutely.
happen. Scripts are necessary though. I've used several scripts in my
Mhm.
career, and I'm sure you have too. They're necessary. They're a guideline, but putting
Mhm.
yourself in it, to where you're the actor, you're the actress.
Mhm.
That's the magic. That's where things start to happen, where people start seeing who you are and what you stand for, rather than are you selling me something that I may or may not want. You know.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. You guys, I hope you guys, well, you guys buy this book like right now. I hope you wrote down the 5 steps of persuasion. I see it all the time. I think the first, I think the, I think you're right, Dustin. I think one of the biggest hurdles for doctors, especially new chiropractors coming out of school, because I coach a lot of new chiropractors coming out of school, is step number one
Hmm. Yeah.
is, knowing what do you want, what is your desired outcome, and they immediately go for the kill. I want the
Hmm.
close. I want the
Yeah.
close. You can't close people.
Yeah.
You gotta. I posted something on Facebook like a while ago, and I got a lot of shit for it, but it was just a comment, and I'll tell you where it came from. I was not meaning to insult anybody. I did end up insulting people. I did not mean to insult anybody with this comment. And I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a client that I was coaching. She bombed her day one. She calls me up. What did I do wrong? I said, well, let me ask you this. When you went in to the room, what was your intention? In other words,
Hmm.
what did you want? That was the first question I asked her. And she said, I want to convert them.
Yeah.
Right. And I go, you're going in for the kill, you're going in for the close. I go, you need to build a relationship, build
Yeah.
a rapport.
Hmm.
And basically everything we talked about, so I don't want to repeat. And so I made a post on Facebook with no intention of her stepping on toes or hurting anybody's feelings. And the post simply said is something like, we don't close our patients, but we open them, meaning
Yeah.
like we open
I
them
saw
to
that.
different possibilities, different perspectives, different belief systems
Yeah.
on how to take care of your health and have a better quality of life. And it
Yeah.
got a lot of slack because of certain groups out there. And I didn't even think about it. Like I'm like, do. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about it. But anyway, that's probably one of the biggest hurdles for newer practitioners.
Yeah, they go in there. If you've had associates before, they go in there nervous already
Mhm.
because they really think that I'm really in there flipping a coin. They're either going to say yes or no, and that's nerve wracking. That's putting a lot of pressure on yourself when all you have to
Yes.
do is go inside a room and be a human being, and
Yes.
and really that's all that's necessary. It does take training, um, on how to communicate effectively. But if you're going in there thinking about, oh gosh, I hope this person says yes, then you're already thinking about the close rather than, you know, where are they? Are they if I tell people this all the time, like I'm not the best speaker in the world. I can entertain you. I
Mhm.
can give you some knowledge, but one of the things that I've developed over time is if I'm speaking to a group of people and I can notice that some of them are bored and some of them may just be not really interested, my entire focus starts going into the bored people. I've got to entertain them, and the people that are not interested, I have to say something interesting to them. So
Mhm.
your audience should dictate how you communicate rather
Mhm.
than you thinking I've got to sell them, so here's what I'm going to say to sell them on this. Like your audience should tell you what you're about to say. And I
Yep.
go in that in the book. It's really big because the better you get at this, you'll take what your communication is, where their mindset is, and you can if you're so aware of where their mindset is and what you know to say, it makes it easy. It makes it so easy. Some people will say, well, I don't know what powerful question to ask to create leverage. They should be telling you what powerful question to ask. It's that
Yeah.
easy if you listen well enough. And so, again, the book is the nice thing about the book, too. I don't know how I did this, but I put all of that information into like 170 something pages
Yeah.
because I did not want it to be long. I did not want it to be intimidating. And it
Yeah.
actually came out a little shorter. I thought 200 would be great. So when you pick up the book, it's not intimidating, and it's going to be an easy read, and it'll be something that I've had people tell me already. I've read it 4 times, or I've
Hmm.
read parts of it 4 times, because when you do read it, you'll find yourself going back to the part that's not your strength. You'll be going to where you need work, and that's a good test that the book is actually serving people well to strengthen a weakness.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely it's an easy read. It's a great flow. It keeps your attention for sure. And it's also a great resource. So I found myself going back. Let me read that again. Let me read that
Yeah,
one liner. I like that one liner.
yeah,
Yeah, I loved
yeah.
it.
Thank you.
Dustin, I don't even know. I think we went over our 30 minutes, but this stuff was so good that I didn't want to cut it off. I feel like I can talk to you forever. And I miss you,
Oh,
man.
I know. I miss you too. We've got to get together, and we got to do some stuff. I really appreciate you. This is the first place I've promoted the book. I reached out to you, I trust you. I see what you put out, and I wanted to get your thoughts and your feedback. And I appreciate you putting me on your stage first,
Of course.
to promote the book. And just forever grateful. Love you, and I just like admire what you're doing. It's great. Kids right out of school, I call them kids, we're getting old, right out of school, and showing them the ropes right away. That's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate it. All right, you guys, another Wednesday down. I want you guys to go grab this book, Adjusting Your Persuasion, my good friend Dustin Taylor. And as always, and I'm sure I'm going to speak for Dustin right now, so hopefully this is okay. If you guys have any questions, either one of us are always more than happy to help you guys. Great way to, oh, I know, reach me is always through Facebook. Of course, you guys can always reach me. And Dustin, the same for you too, right? If anybody has any questions or they want to reach out, right through Facebook,
Reach out.
right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys, have a blessed week.
All right.
See you
Thanks,
next
Nicole.
week.